I'm Jeff Scheel. I am one of several TPMs from the RISC-V organization. I work for RISC-V, so if you guys are members, I work for you folks. Perhaps you've heard Mark say, if you need help, send an email to help@riscv.org. That's my secondary email address. So if anything comes up here today, either remember jeff@riscv.org or help@riscv.org, and we can absolutely follow up. I'll be around, etc. Before we get started, just to help me sort of set context, because think of this as sort of a technical sales, and I'll use the word sales meaning, hey, I'm here to educate you. Maybe education is a better word as opposed to sales, because that has such loaded connotations for those of us that are technical folks. How many people here are members? Let's just start there. Hands up. Great. Raphael, you're a member. He's my colleague, okay. But new, so we have to train him. Yeah, okay, all right. How many people had heard of the DevBoards program before you walked in the door today or before you looked at your schedule? Okay, now hold your hands up if you've actually attended one of my meetings. Hey, Alan, hi. Excellent, so we do have a couple people that are engaged. And so anybody in the room actually have a dev board that came from me and the program? Excellent, good. See, we have proof that the process works. There's our existence proof. I think I learned that one in college. All right, so what I want to do today is sort of take you through tops down what we're about, what we're trying to do, and how you can engage with us if you have interest. And hopefully that'll be enough to get you, hi Bilal, how are you? That'll be enough to get you interested, and I'll try to leave 5-10 minutes maybe for a few questions at the end so that we can have a discussion, because this is quite honestly a program we run in RISC-V on the benefit of the foundation. So that is the key part. Let's see. Forward, please, 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 please. All right, now you're going to make me stand up here because I don't trust it anymore. All right. What are we up to from a program perspective? We are trying to basically build success in the ecosystem by promoting boards and making them available. If you think about how you build a software ecosystem for a new platform, which my background was I spent 20 years helping build the Linux on Power program. So if one thinks about how do you enable a new software environment around a platform, you have to get products out to the people if you're trying to enable open source so that packages can be ported. And then my good friend Heinrich over here, who works with Canonical, then you have packages that can get bundled into operating systems so that then consumers can pick up off-the-shelf sorts of products and just use them on the platforms. So we are here to try and drive porting of software and build the ecosystem through essentially the giveaway of boards. Now that takes, that just as a definition by itself has a lot of intricacies. I mean, even if the boards magically appeared or you had everything that fit anybody's needs, the logistics of getting a board out to a developer and knowing what they're going to do with the developer is actually a rather hard problem. The good news is we've solved that portion of the problem, and we're now working on the broader pieces within our limitation. But coupled with this as well also comes the ability to, not just work on, I'll say, traditional open source projects. You can work on educational initiatives. Dev boards can have an impact there. I'm working with my colleague Megan Lair out of the Academic Initiatives Group. We can work and identify emerging technologies. There are a lot of things we can do in hopes of, and that last word on the slide, building goodwill in the software ecosystem is the key part of that. If you go out to the website, and if you've ever done anything with our dev boards, you'll notice that we've revised this in the last few months. We had a more complex starting page here on the left that sort of gives you these basic tenets we've talked about. But we're starting now out of the details slide off of the yellow button. When you click on the yellow button, you get to a program details page where we will show you each of the programs we are running and what we're doing with that program at any given time. Is it open for projects to be proposed? Are we shipping the boards? Is the program closed? And so over time, our hope is this will also become sort of our badge of honor of look how many programs we've run. And this is just getting started, so you dearly love to have 20 or 30. We're at about 5 or 6 out there today. We have, I think, 2 programs actually still soliciting projects. We have one that just wrapped up soliciting their projects. And we have some that we've run this past year. So take a look at those 2 starting places if you're looking for where can I get more information, where can I get started. How can I engage? My good friend Thea Clay from our marketing side, she and I have been thinking about, how do we get people into this space? Because obviously the first group of people I'm most interested in are project proposers or software people working on software that say, I'm working on this open source project and I'd like to make sure it runs on RISC-V. That's sort of my first group of people, although they're my second bullet that I'm interested in. The next group, and actually our latest group we're really focused on, is the board vendors. Anybody in the room building boards, thinking about building boards, would like to try and reach your ecosystem? Yeah, I'd like to talk with you. I'd like to work with you if we haven't already made a link. Because we can work together to get those boards out, build an ecosystem. And what we've done to help facilitate this is we've set up a form that says, hey, if you have a board you'd like to propose, tell me the basics. What do you think we can accomplish? Tell me what this board can do. What's its form factor? How do we work on pricing? Are you interested in donating boards? Are you going to give us a discount? How are we going to work the details of sort of the business? There are a lot of questions that one needs to contemplate if we're going to build a program here to do this that we've been helping refine. And so those are the two groups of people today. There may be a third group of people that we say, hey, we'd like to at some point in the future, but we haven't yet considered that. So those are the 2 groups that we're looking for engagement from. I suppose there is a third group. Those who have an interest in helping make this successful, whether you're a project or a board provider, want to be part of the, I won't say committee, that has such baggage, the group, the working group that does this work, speak to me as well, because I'm always looking for ideas, for assistance, and I'm helping run this program right now as part of my responsibility. So that would be the third group, I suppose, that I've just invented here on the fly. So that's how to engage. What does the process look like? I'll say the program management aspect, we run that instead of using the typical members portal. We've acknowledged that some of these interactions are going to be external, right? A members portal today means you're a member. You have to log into your member stuff to participate in the discussions. So we've moved our mailing list, our community external into Google Groups. There's a link to the group there. It's called the RISC-V Development Board Program. This is the group that helps run the program that works with me. So that would be the magic hidden third bullet on the previous slide. That group is there. We meet twice a month. I try to hold a more Eastern-friendly, Asia-Pacific friendly, and more Western-friendly time zone. So I'm hoping to reach everybody once a month, but recognize when you run a worldwide program, it's a little difficult to have one time that is happy for everybody. Somebody's dinner, somebody's sleep, all those family time, all those important things get compromised. So we're trying to keep 2 times at work and let people pick which one works best for them. The second thing then is we have the sort of the project proposal. Once we have boards, once we've decided what we're doing, that basic process says, hey, we have people come to us through a form that says, I have a project I want to propose. They find that form off of the previous details website. They click on it. They specify what kind of board, or they pick the board that looks best. They select and write up their project. We build the board, or we purchase the boards, we get those, and we ship those to the community members as free of charge as possible. So the goal is, if somebody's sitting in the middle of India, or in the middle of Europe, or in the middle of the US, the program helps get that board there without them having to do anything more than sign for the board. In the end is how we run that program. And again, we will manage that off of the main page that I showed, the details page that I showed you. It was on the right side of that previous slide. Our good proposals, people always submit projects, and free is an interesting thing to people on the internet. It's amazing the write-ups you will get for things that are free, and the people that will follow up on very little information in a project, wondering why their project wasn't submitted. So we have established off of that page what's a good project, right? It has clear impact. I'll be, supporting the architecture in this project. Here's proof I know how to do open source software. Here's my GitHub link. Those sorts of things. So that I can see that this is a real project. This is something more than just, I'd like a board. And then we evaluate sort of that all from the aspect of, is it consistent with where RISC-V wants to go in general? Do we see benefit? And then sort of the sanity test of, they're asking for, and I'll just use this as an artificial, they're asking for an FPGA, but they're saying they want to port open source software, right? Some of those things just don't always make sense. Do they really understand what we're trying to do? So we'll sanity check that. And then, of course, I love it the most when we have members that say, hey, I'm a member company, I work in this open source software, I want to make sure the platform supports it. So that's the definition of a good project. And my requirements are then that I can get status out of the members. So I ask them for monthly status. I don't hold them to monthly status. If I don't hear from them once a quarter, I'll reach out to them specifically. But I ask for status once a month. I take that, I roll that up. And then I also ask them, when you're done with your project, would you be willing to help us advertise what you've accomplished? You would be surprised at some of the videos, some of the things we've done, and hopefully some of them are listed here for you to take a look at later. Then the other piece that I throw in here is, as we accept projects and bring them in, we'll send them an email that says, hey, congratulations. This is an example of the board for the Vision 5 V1 board. Here's information for how you get started. Here's information for any of the software environments you might be running. Try to make the getting up to speed with these new boards as simple and straightforward as possible. So that's just an example of that. And final things, what have we done to date? So we ran, my initial program that we ran a little over a year ago was with the All-Winner D1 board. We sent 60 boards out worldwide. We were not successful at meeting our goal that developers get them free of charge. We had problems with import taxes. We had to learn the process. It was tricky. Then we did sci-fi boards. We did that with the unmatched boards. We had 25 of those. We did much better at getting those boards out. Most successful program to date has been the Vision 5 V1 board. We're actually on our second buy. We're now up to 105 boards that we have purchased. We have just a handful left. You can see the breakdown. 17 of those went to academic projects, 38 into distribution partners. That is not just Linux. That is FreeBSD, OpenBSD, FreeRTOS, Alpine Linux, Yocto, a whole group of ecosystem providers, or distros we'd call them. 43 general sort of ecosystem projects, and then I still have a few boards left over there. We have a small FPGA, this little RISC-V board, if you've seen it, that we're getting ready to run a program with. That will be a little more academic-centric in that it's a small FPGA, but has a real processor, very small, I think a 32-bit RISC-V processor on it. So we're thinking there would be some interesting academic projects we could do on this board, and we're in the process of building our project there. We just closed the external project ideas. Now we're going to go work with the academic community to see what we can do. We've had some laptops that we've been looking at that hopefully will come to fruition here. Certainly when we get laptops, whether it's these or others, that will be very significant to us. And Vision 5 has announced their V2 board that's coming, and we're in the process of getting our projects, but working with Vision 5 on how we acquire those boards and get those out as well. They did their Kickstarter project, which just generated huge activity for them. Here in first quarter, we expect to do our buy and go from there. So, and the benefit is, what do you get out of it? And I mentioned the operating systems that we've touched, and when I said the distro partners we've touched, we got a list of those. We have academic institutions where members of these communities have said we want to work with them. That's down the middle column. Sort of our open source communities is the third column over, actually third and fourth columns, and those are building over time. So these aren't an indication that these projects fully support the platform yet. It's an indication they're working on it and they're engaged with us, which in my mind is where success begins here. And by the way, you don't have to, I mean, you're happy to take pictures of the slides. I'll figure out how to make them available to people through the right things. Absolutely. These are not proprietary at all. They're here to be shared. And there's a bunch of links, and we're going to continue to do this, of things that have occurred with our boards that I think are way cool. And, you know, I'm a guy who started programming 35 years ago. The basic assembly programmer's quick release guide is a little tri-fold card of like all the low-level assembler for RISC-V. This guy just built it once he got his board. I mean, it was so 1980s, I just loved it. For those of you that wrote code in the 80s with me, you can understand why it was cool. I should have printed one and showed you, but I mean, all sorts of great things have come out of this. So that's what I'm up to. What questions can I answer for you? What brought you here today besides your choice was what, Future Watch or me? So what brought you here today instead of the competing one that I can help answer questions for? Anything? Any comments on what you've heard? Yes, right up front here. And I'll repeat it. How about that? So that.
So Jeff, this is more a curiosity thing. I saw this program, thought the obvious thing you need is for the GCC farm, because GCC has a huge farm of machines for every architecture. But it turns out there are already 2 RISC-V machines in there. Have they come through your program?
So the question, for those in the back that didn't hear it, because, you know, when you arrive early to church, you get to sit in the back. When you arrive late, you have to sit up front. So Jeremy, we know when you got here, but I digress. The question was, Jeremy has observed that there are already 2 RISC-V boards in the GCC Compiler Farm, which is a very key part of the ecosystem. Did the Compiler Farm boards come through me? And the answer is, I don't think so, but yes, we are working very closely with them of late. And so here's part of the challenge, especially to board provider people. I'm only as good as the hardware membership provides. And if we think about the GCC build farm in that environment, most of that is enterprise cloud, data center, you know, rent some resources, get it there. Things are pretty much hands-off-ish for doing builds. What do I need to do builds? I need lots of cores, lots of memory, plus, you know, standard form factor remotely managed boards. I'm waiting for that board. I mean, the Sci-Fi Unmatched was the closest thing I got, and I got 25 of those, and all that did was leave me wanting more.
That's one of the 2.
That's right. That is one of the 2. They are also working and this is a cheap advertisement for the next session, which I'm also running on the Dev Labs program. They're working with one of our labs that has a bunch of unmatched boards to see if they can tie in some of these other publicly available boards. But they are on my list for future programs of people that I go to and say, how many boards do you want? So I don't think I got them their 2 boards, but I absolutely know who they are, and they are good friends, and we will make sure they get boards when we get things that meet their needs. The other great example here, like them, is the Debian community. Wants to support us. They've been doing packages. They've been doing porting. They're supporting, Canonical folks upstream as well as a whole part of all of that ecosystem, but they have their data center requirements, and we don't yet have what I would call a data center enabled board. The day that thing shows up, I'm all in. Laptops will be nice, still not quite enough. Data center boards will be killer. I will be everybody's best friend the day we get those. So, great question, Jeremy, thank you. Next question, comments. I'm going to put you on the spot, if I may. What have you done with the board? What has your experience been? And how'd it go? And who are you, since I don't recognize your face? Ah. And Stefan, your last name, it begins with a W. Yeah, I won't even try to pronounce it. Stefan, and you are from an academic university out of Germany, if I recall. Don't remember which one, but yeah. Stefan helped set up the original program, and yes, I think you got a D1 board from me when we set up the first one. Okay. The Vision 5 board, maybe? Oh, the Beagle board, yeah. That probably would have come through Beagle because we did not get those into our program. Exactly. So, yeah. Thank you, Stefan. Nice to meet you face to face in front of all these people. Thank you for your base work. Yes, I've noticed your name on a lot of these things. So thank you for helping get started. Yes, sir. How can I answer your question? Okay, so the question is, do I know if Raspberry Pi is coming over to RISC-V? He's heard it's on and off at various times. If I did, I don't know that I'd be able to announce that here today. We have had discussions about that, and there's a lot of history there that I don't fully understand. But I don't believe there is anything, short on the horizon today, but it absolutely is one of those areas that I think is key to all of us. And so if you had a way that you could help us do that, I'd love to have that discussion with you. And so would my colleague Thea, as she and I, brainstorm these things. So, yes, sir. The question is, do I have access to, and how often do I get boards that are not yet available on the open market? And that is the catch-22 of my job right now. I would love early access to anything and prepare a program in advance of general production. Now, having worked for a large proprietary hardware vendor, I understand the sensitivities of what I just asked for. So there is sort of I have to have somebody who's willing to trust Jeff and work with Jeff to do that. I think there would be ways we could do that. My just gut feel is the best I'm going to get is some hardware maybe in advance of an announce whereby we could sort of start the program the minute the hardware becomes available as well. And why do I think there's going to be that gray? Of course, there's the whole confidentiality thing. I'm just going to set that aside for the moment and say my experience with the program in the last 12 to 18 months is that while we call them dev boards, there are a lot of people that want turnkey solutions when those things become available. And so I'm in this gray area, and I really believe it's a developer board program. So I'm perfectly comfortable with the email that I showed you that has, you know, go here, do this, look at this. I'll pull it all together for the people. That's a developer board. That's not production hardware. On the same time, like with the Vision 5 V2 boards, I wasn't ready to take their first pass boards to send out through the developer board program. I wanted to be in the second buy if I could, you know, use that as sort of the, you know, start producing it. Let me get it the second time. Although they've run a great program, there's the, you know, how reproducible is the hardware, how reliable is the hardware. I mean, there are a lot of things with being early that become hard. And so I'd love to do one and try it and see if we could work some of those out. Nobody has yet stood up and said, I have a secret program. Will you help me? So, but yeah, it's a great question. I think that's where the power would be here. So, all right, we're going to take one more question because at the top of the hour, I'm going to change topics here. Ask real loudly and I'll repeat it. Yeah. So the gentleman in the back said OSU, which is Oregon State University, for those of you who are not native U.S. people, has a bunch of power machines that coincidentally, meaning power systems, IBM power systems. They have those servers because of myself and other colleagues while I was at my previous employer. They have a bunch of power systems that are basically available as a developer cloud. That topic, my friend, is the mission of the next discussion topic, labs, which is where we go into the other way one helps grow ecosystem, is sort of cloud resources. Turns out if you want to talk about growing a software ecosystem, you can have cloud access, which we had all the time in my previous job, and then they always said, but I want cheap and I want it on my desktop. And now I got cheap and on my desktop and I'm growing towards the cloud. So we're doing both. We're going to get there. That's absolutely where I want to go with the whole ecosystem, and that's part of what the lab's mission is. So stick around for another 25 minutes and we'll tell you more. But yes, I'm working with OSU. They joined this year because I reached out to them, and they're helping build our labs initiative. So great question. All right, we're going to wrap up there. help@risc5.org or jeff@risc5.org with any questions. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you.